ULEZ has come and it's causing havoc for the people in and around London. With Mr. Khan charging you £12.50 to drive in his back garden, you might be thinking that now is the time to trade your car in for something that is in fact ULEZ compliant. But what if you don't want to spend tens of thousands of pounds on an electric car, but you still want something that's easy to drive with an automatic gearbox, it's practical and it's good around town? Well, I'm Jack, this is Driven by Data, and today we're going to be talking about 5 ULEZ compliant bargains that you can pick up for £2,000 or probably less, that are all automatic, they're all practical and they're all hatchbacks. Now if you're new around here, don't forget to subscribe, please like this video if you're enjoying the content. Right, let's get into it. First up, we have the formidable Ford Focus. The Focus was released as a replacement for the Escort in 1998. It was designed to be Ford's compact car that could be sold all over the world, so they put a lot of effort into getting it right. And it worked. It was particularly well received and it was praised for its handling, as well as winning the European Car of the Year award in 1999. In order to pick up a ULEZ compliant example, you've got to be looking at petrol, and realistically you're going to be looking at either the 1.6 or 1.8 petrol, as the 1.4 was really underpowered. Most examples on sale at the moment are the 1.6 with 99 horsepower and a 4-speed auto gearbox. The facelift came in 2001, and the big giveaway for the facelift being that you'd have the indicators in the front headlamps instead of in the front bumper. The second generation C307 Focus was released for the 2004 model year, and the design was significantly modernised inside and out. Underneath, these cars were actually very similar, with a similar suspension and engine setup, but they certainly do look more in keeping for the second generation with the modern car design, and hence command more of a premium. They tend to go for slightly more than our 2K budget. You might be able to snag a deal, but really we're going to be looking at a nicely sorted Mark 1 for our 2K budget. On these early Focuses, rust can be an issue, and it's expensive to repair if it is extensive. So make sure you watch out when you go and look at any, particularly around the rear wheel arches and the sills. Camber replacements should officially be done every 100,000 miles, but by this age you really want to make sure it's been replaced, even if the car's done fewer miles. Thankfully it's a straightforward operation and can be done for around £200 by a garage, or it can even be done DIY if you have the space and time to do so. Some of the earlier examples were not ULEZ compliant though, but generally a facelifted 2001 or later will be, so just make sure to check the TfL website for the specific car you are looking at. Next up, we've got something which I reckon might surprise you. It's the Hyundai Matrix, which was made from 2001 to 2010, and the facelift came in 2005. You could buy it in a 1.6 GSI or a 1.8 CDX petrol in the UK. The first thing that you're going to notice about the Matrix is its polarising design. It does certainly split opinion as one of Pininfarina's more divisive creations, and I have to say that I hated these when they first came out, but they've really grown on me now, particularly the first generations with that stepped window line and the roof bars. The brochure said that the Matrix was styled to look great, which you have to admit is quite entertaining, but I'll leave you to be the judge. Let me know in the comments down below whether you think that the Matrix styling has come into its own in 2023. One byproduct of this funky design is that the car is tall, which means there is a good amount of space for rear passengers, which is useful if you have older kids, and it also benefits from a higher driving position, which is good to note if you like that kind of thing. On the other hand, this height means it has the aerodynamic properties of a brick, so you will notice the wind noise inside the cabin. It is overall spacious for its compact size and has a great turning circle, so it does make a great city car. These are generally reliable little cars. Some owners reported issues with the throttle sensors, so check revs at idle. If they start creeping up, that could be an indication that it's going to need replacing. Next up, we have something that maybe you were expecting. This is the Skoda Fabia. Now, the first generation Fabia was introduced in 2000, and straight away it won What Car's Car of the Year award. It was facelifted in 2004, and it was produced until 2007 when the second generation came along. The Fabia was famously developed in conjunction with Volkswagen, but it was available for less than the equivalent Polo, which led to this car being a great success. The interior is going to feel very familiar to those who are used to a VW or have been in one before. Some criticise it for being boring, but it is functional and it feels sufficiently well made for the price point. Make sure you check the footwells for damp, since the water's been known to drip in through the air vents if they get blocked. It's a straightforward fix by unblocking it, but something to be wary of. Overall, these cars are solid, reliable and well built. For a ULEZ compliant example, again you've got to be looking at petrol, and to get an automatic you're going to be looking for the 1.4 litre 16 valve, such as this 2005 model with 79,000 miles for just under 2k. Next up we have the Vauxhall Astra, which has become so popular that the British landscape wouldn't be the same without them. Now for our 2k budget you're going to see a mixture of Mark IV and Mark V Astras. Both the Mark IV and the Mark V were the second best-selling models in Britain after the Ford Focus, so they're plentiful in numbers, but it's the Mark V which was the most successful version of the Astra. If your budget is really tight, you can pick up a decent Mark IV for as little as 1k, but I would strongly recommend pushing for the Mark V if you can. The Mark IV was made from 1998 to 2004, but not all Mark IVs are going to be ULEZ compliant, so you'd have to look out for the 1.6 16 valve, and again make sure to check the TfL website before buying anything. The Mark V was a big improvement over the Mark IV. With 6 years between these models, you're going to see significant handling and safety safety improvements, as well as a far more modern design internally and externally. The Mark IV received a 4-star Euro NCAP rating in 1999, but the Mark V received a 5-star rating in 2004, and the standards were of course even higher at that point. Whilst the NCAP test has moved on a lot since then, you'll certainly feel a bit safer in the Mark V compared to the Mark IV. There were 3 Mark V engine options with auto boxes, the 1.6 and 1.8 petrols, as well as the 1.9 diesel. Now the only one that I would recommend is the 1.8 petrol, since the diesel won't be ULEZ compliant, and the 1.6 came with something called an easytronic box, which isn't a true auto. It's effectively an automated manual box with a complex set of motors and actuators to change gear for you, and these are known for reliability issues, so stay away if you see anything that says easytronic. Here is an example of the interior of one for sale at the moment, and you can see that it has a distinctive gear lever, so stay away if you see something like this. Here's a 2007 example 1.8 Astra. This one has 138 horsepower with only 70,000 miles for just under 2k. And finally, we couldn't make a video about hatchbacks without covering something from France. Released in 2004, the Citroen C4 was based on the Peugeot 307, and in traditional Citroen fashion, it had a striking design compared to all of its competitors. The chief designer, Donato Coco, was actually the same man who designed one of the prettiest cars ever made, the Ferrari 458. But the design is perhaps even more interesting inside, with a centralised digital instrument panel and a fixed hub steering wheel, which looks futuristic even today. I mean, it looks like it's come straight out of a spaceship. The way it just spins around with the centre staying in place, and then you've got all those controls on the wheel. I mean, that's cool. The C4 was typically well spec'd with on-wheel controls for radio and cruise control, and while it was said not to handle as well as the Focus, it provides a comfortable ride that you would expect from a Citroen. It came in 1.4, 1.6 and 2 litre petrol variants, all of which should be ULEZ compliant, but the 2 litre is the one to go for, as the 1.4 is a bit gutless, and the 2 litre has more power than the 1.6, but very similar fuel economy. Here's a very reasonable example of the 5-door C4 hatchback, which comes with full service history, a long MOT, climate control, 90,000 miles. What more can you ask for? So now that we've seen all 5 cars in detail, let's dig into the data. Firstly, looking at acceleration and 0 to 60 times, we can see there's a clear divide between the Matrix and Fabia at 14 and 16 seconds respectively, compared to all the other cars at around 10 seconds. Whilst obviously you're not buying these cars for their 0 to 60 times, it is worth bearing in mind as to how well they're going to be nipping around town. Turning to top speed, it's a similar story though, with the Matrix and Fabia at around 100 miles per hour and the C4 all the way up to 130. Now, whilst you aren't buying these cars for top speed either, it can still be a good indication of how capable the car and engine is, and better performing cars are likely to be more comfortable sitting at motorway speeds. But for city driving, torque is actually a really more useful measure of how well the car's going to nip around town. And the Fabia comes in the lowest with only 93 foot-pounds of torque, whereas the Hyundai looks a bit better here, comparable to the Focus. But again, it's the Astra and C4 which are on top with their bigger engines. Turning to road tax, we can see that despite their larger engines, the Astra and C4 are no more expensive to tax than the Matrix and Focus at £365 a year. However, the Fabia does come in slightly cheaper at £320 a year. Finally, looking at miles per gallon, which is probably the most important statistic for these cars, we can see that the Skoda comes out on top with a combined MPG of 47.9, so at least you are getting some economy as a trade-off for that lack of power. The same can't be said for the Hyundai, however, which is clearly the worst with a combined figure of only 42.8. The C4, Focus and Astra all come in similarly at around 46 miles per gallon combined. So there we go guys, that's 5 ULEZ compliant hatchbacks that you can pick up with automatic gearboxes for under 2k. If it was me, I'd personally be looking at the Citroen for its quirky design features and its extra power, or perhaps the Skoda Fabia for its sturdy build quality and reliability. Now let me know down in the comments below which one you would go for, or if there's another option that I haven't thought of. Please do like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. The first milestone we're aiming for is 100 subscribers, and I would love for you to be a part of this journey. You can click this button here to subscribe, or you can watch another video here, and I will catch you in the next one.